Over 3 years ago, I subscribed to this particular user here on YouTube. She has changed channels more than once. She has deleted past videos. And one of the videos that she made really stood out to me, which is no longer on YouTube. I was going to use it in this video, but I couldn't find it as she deleted most of her older videos. The video was regarding atheists and Christians. And in that video, she was claiming that her job as a Christian is never her job to do proselytization and convert people to Christianity or her religion. Rather, she would just share what she believed, and she believed that Christians and atheists deserve just as much respect as anybody, and that it is her job as a Christian to love everybody, and it is never her job to convert anybody. I wish I could provide the video clip, the video that she made almost 2 to 3 years ago, because I remember it very, very clearly, and it was actually widely accepted. A lot of atheists commented on that video, and I remember that video very, very clearly, and people were like, wow, this is really, really cool that a Christian can actually, come onto YouTube, talk about what they believe, but they're not doing it in a, proselytization, come to Jesus, Jesus has all the answers, become a Christian and you won't go to hell type of forceful mentality that many Christians have. In any case, this is a new video by her, and everything that I previously had seen by her has been thrown out the window. She is not the person who I thought she was, and quite frankly, you're probably going to become very, very irritated, upset, or annoyed when you start to hear her say the things that she does. Personally, I believe that she should have stayed away from this topic because she's lost all credibility that she had from the past that I used to watch her from. In any case, I present to you her.
Hey guys, so Phil Robertson, aka the Duck Commander, is currently under fire for his latest interview with GQ magazine where he gets real about homosexuality, giving his usual raw and very unfiltered opinion about a quite sensitive subject, which shouldn't be such a surprise for the entertainment industry. However, the internet flooding criticism he's received, in addition to his suspension from the Duck Dynasty reality TV show by A&E, has left quite a few people outraged. Bobby Jindal, who is the governor of Louisiana, the hometown of Phil Robertson, had this remark, quote, "It is a messed up situation when Miley Cyrus gets a laugh and Phil Robertson gets suspended. GLAAD promoters of the LGBT community respond with this. Phil and his family claim to be Christian, but Phil's lies about an entire community fly in the face of what true Christians believe." They went on to say he clearly knows nothing about gay people, but the truth is the LGBT community knows nothing about what real Christians believe.
Of course you use the Scotsman fallacy. You're not a true Christian. That's not what true Christians believe. Let me tell you something. What determines a true Christian? Because as far as I'm concerned, and as far as I grew up in the religious household and the parents that I am with now, I wasn't allowed to watch Harry Potter until age 14. But I did manage to see the first few Harry Potter movies behind my parents' back. That being said, when people found out that Daniel Sulzbach had seen Harry Potter, I was labeled not a true Christian. Did you know growing up that when I watched Star Wars, I was accused of not being a true Christian because 1, it contained mysticism, and 2, it was a form of pantheism, the Force, and the Force being all around and like kind of the spirit world and so on and so forth. It's also part, I think, is Hinduism or Buddhism, the Force within Star Wars, something like that. Don't quote me on that. But in any case, I was labeled not a true Christian. So what is a true Christian? Because as far as I'm concerned, I hear denominations and different churches say, if you don't believe in water baptism, you're not a true Christian. If you don't believe in evolution, you're not a true Christian. If you don't believe in the 6,000-year-old earth, you're not a true Christian. If you don't believe in this, you're not a true Christian. What determines a true Christian? Maybe that's a rhetorical question. But in any case, you've used a Scotsman fallacy here. That doesn't work. You can't say, well, true Christians believe this, because I hear that so often, and I don't even know how you even determine what a true Christian is, because there's so many conflicting denominations and theological doctrines that all say different things. How do you know? I don't know.
So let's get biblical. Leviticus 18 verse 22. You shall not lie with a male as with a woman. It is an abomination. Leviticus 20 verse 13. If a man lies with a male as with a woman, both of them have committed an abomination. Now for the New Testament, 1 Corinthians 6, 9 through 10. Do not be deceived. Neither the sexually immoral, nor idolaters, nor adulterers, nor men who practice homosexuality, nor thieves, nor the greedy, nor drunkards, nor revilers, nor swindlers will enter the kingdom of God. If that's not enough, let's look at 1 Timothy 9 through 10. We also know that the law is made not for the righteous, but for lawbreakers and rebels, the ungodly and sinful, for the sexually immoral, for those practicing homosexuality, for slave traders, and liars and perjurers, and for whatever else is contrary to sound doctrine. I personally don't think you can get clearer than that. One of the most requested topics I received on I Emanuela has been homosexuality. For the longest time, I tried to avoid it.
Well, I can say with certainty that you should have avoided it because the rest of this video gets worse. In any case, I find it ironic when Christians like yourself use the Bible as a source of argumentation. You cannot do this. You cannot use the Bible to make arguments. Maybe if you made this video and you actually tried to make an argument that was not used, that the Bible was not being used as your source, then maybe people could maybe take you a little bit more seriously. But you can't do this. This is a fundamental flaw that I see with so many Christians, is when they try to argue something, they use their religious book. It doesn't work that way. If you want to make a solid foundation argument against gay marriage, which there have been people who have made arguments without using the Bible, do it that way. You have more credibility if you do that. But quoting off Bible verses does nothing, because we all know the Bible is a book full of contradictions, and I don't need to get into detail with that. But just for example, you know, you're listing all these things off in the Old Testament, Leviticus, do not lie with a man and woman. Do you know how much shit is in the Old Testament? And I find it funny that you didn't mention that if they lie down with a man and lies down with another man, they get stoned, they get killed. In any case, what about not eating shrimp? You know, men aren't supposed to shave their beards. You're not supposed to wear certain garments on your clothes. But then you mentioned the New Testament, and supposedly the New Testament, when Jesus came down and died and all that jazz stuff, he died for your sins. He abolished the old law, the Old Testament law. And I find it weird that Christians like yourself will get in front of a video, use the Old Testament as a source of argumentation to say, well, being gay is wrong. But if you go to the New Testament, the law was supposedly abolished. So if the law was supposedly abolished and all of these laws, do not eat shrimp, don't wear certain garments, don't cut your beard, don't have a period and bleed out of your vagina in a certain type of month, if a guy has sex with you, then he's dirty and you deserve to be stoned, whatever, however it goes. My point is how can you pull out gay marriage out of all of these different laws that were supposedly abolished, and then you pull out gay marriage and say, well, this one is still applicable in the New Testament, but all the other things, those don't matter anymore. Do you see where I'm going with that? I've never truly understand how the law of Jesus or law of Moses or whatever the fuck it is, abolished all of those Old Testament commandments, but how certain specific commandments are still applicable within the New Testament. And just FYI, Jesus never spoke on gay marriage. I'm using gay, because I don't like the term homosexuality. I just don't like it at all. In any case, it's just something to think about.
I reasoned it this way. For me, it was like saying murder is wrong, or adultery is wrong, or the sky is blue. Yeah, it never made sense to me why homosexuality was pulled out of this category and labeled okay by mainstream media.
It is labeled okay by mainstream media because it's okay. There's nothing wrong with being married to a man or a woman being married to another woman. That's why it's accepted in mainstream media, and I'm very happy with the progress that we have had in this country, despite me not being a fan of America, but the fact that there are states now that are actually legalizing gay marriage because they're seeing that it's really not an issue, and the main laws that have been against gay marriage have always been religious reasons, institutions, religious beliefs, and that is not a reason to not legalize gay marriage because of your religion. I believe the church and government should be separate. Religion does not have a place in government decisions and legislations regarding gay marriage or abortions or anything like that.
It was very impersonal to me, so I figured let somebody who has a burden for this deal with it. But here I am. The reason why I decided to talk about this, recently I discovered that homosexuality was a lot closer to me than I ever dreamed. And I'm finally ready to get real about it. One day, all of a sudden, it put on a face that I recognized and I cared about. It was extremely unexpected. It shook my world, and all of a sudden, homosexuality became personal. My feelings towards homosexuality has not changed, but my feelings towards homosexuals has, which I feel has distinguished my approach from the majority of my Christian brothers and sisters. When this person built up the courage to be real with me about this issue, it was so unexpected, but I knew for a split second I was feeling what Jesus feels towards people who are struggling with this. It was pure, unutterable love and concern. Not the love that pats on the back and says it's all good. It was the love that seeks to reform. The world, and especially the LGBT community, has this fluffy, watered-down idea of what Christian love really is. Being a Christian means standing up for what is right.
Being a Christian means standing up for what is right. So how do you determine what is right and wrong? By your holy book, the Bible. That is not a source to determine morality. That is not a source to determine what is right and what is wrong, because if you go by that logic, then stoning gays is perfectly acceptable. Slavery and many other things should be perfectly acceptable. But then again, God or Jesus came to abolish the law, which those don't matter anymore. But you know, in the New Testament, it says that women aren't supposed to speak in the church, men are supposed to have authority, and men are always supposed to be the head of the house, and that women are always more of a second-class citizen, on and on and on. Your definition of right is wrong, because it uses the Bible.
Why do you think Christ was crucified? His love didn't infuriate anyone. It was his stand against the pride of his nation, fueled by self-filled desires, that got him crucified. I believe that homosexuality as a practice is a blatant attack on the character of God.
I honestly do not see how being gay is an attack on the character of God, unless those gay people are trying to give God oral sex or play with his dick. I don't see how they're attacking God whatsoever. At least your biblical God.
Two things were instituted at creation: the Sabbath and the holy union of marriage between a man and a woman.
No, 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 no. No, 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 you're wrong! Utterly wrong! Marriage was not instituted or created by God! Marriage existed long before Christianity ever came around. Christianity was only developed just less than 2,000 years ago. Marriage has existed long before that. Open up a history book. I don't need to go into extreme detail, but here's the thing, is that marriage was used primarily as a social contract, a social construct between different families. It was primarily used as to develop wealth, land, and to keep the family names from going. Marriage was absolutely pivotal for the survival and growth of early civilizations.
Time and time again, God identifies his relationship with us as a groom to a bride. It is holy, sacred, and designed with a purpose. Today, people believe that if you were born or grew up having same-sex feelings, that somehow or in some way it justifies the practice. However, the Council for Responsible Genetics has this to say: the scientific argument for a biological basis for sexual orientation remains weak. Many people struggle with anger issues since childhood. Does that justify them walking to a school one day and shooting 20 kids?
So now you're comparing gay people to walking into a school and shooting and murdering 20 children. Somehow, I don't see a correlation between that. Whatsoever. You know, I actually sat here and I tried to think about how you could correlate walking into a school and murdering 20 children with guns versus being gay, but I just don't see how that is in any way correlated.
Desire does not excuse behavior. Many people struggle with a desire to touch people. Does that justify molestation?
Molestation, being gay, and having consensual sex? What?
Others struggle with sexual desires towards children. Does that justify pedophilia? Whether we like it or not, there was a time when homosexuality was not okay.
Do you know why it wasn't okay? Because of your religion. Christianity. Christianity was that religion that tried to go into the Roman Empire. I think, don't quote me on that, I think it's the Roman Empire, or someplace in Greece, someplace over in Europe, in which Christianity was trying to take over, and they outlawed same-sex relations because it was very prevalent during that time in ancient history, and Christianity didn't like that, so they tried to outlaw it, and they would outlaw it with actually stoning and killing people. So your religion, Christianity, made it so that it's not okay. People have been having same-sex relations long before Christianity ever existed. And it's only about the religion trying to control people and control their desires and control their love for other people. That's what religion does. It's all about controlling masses.
We have to ask ourselves, are we going to reach a place in time where pedophilia or molestation will be justified? Whoa, hold up. Homosexuality is different. It's not hurting anyone. Not hurting anyone? In 2005, according to the Joint United Nations Program on AIDS and the CDC, in San Francisco, 90% of all new AIDS infections are among men who have sex with men. In Los Angeles, 71% of those living with AIDS are gay or bisexual men. Not to mention the more than 50% of all AIDS transmission in the US to be due to male-male sexual contact. Last I checked, AIDS hurts.
So your argument here that being gay hurts people is because of AIDS. And because AIDS, you seem to think in your small mind that AIDS is only something that people who are gay transmits or sends out or, wow. Of all the points you could make, you brought up this one. First of all, I'm not a statistic analysis person. I could probably pull up statistics that would contradict your statistics that you just listed. I'm not a fan of statistics whatsoever because they're so fluctuated and fuck statistics. But what I will say is that you're wrong with this argument, simply because what about heterosexual couples? People who don't have protected sex, they have unprotected sex, and a man maybe has a sexual disease, spreads it to a woman, or a woman has a sexual disease, or maybe a woman has AIDS, a guy has AIDS, and it gets transmitted. Gay people are not the only people that transmit AIDS. Do you not realize that? Like, I'm not sure if you know this, but over in the continent of Africa, AIDS is very, very, very a huge issue. People die every single day from AIDS, and that's not because of gay people. In fact, children are dying of AIDS because of the sex trafficking that happens between people and sexual abuse that goes over there. AIDS is a rampant problem worldwide with all genders and all people. It is not exclusively only to gay people. So that doesn't even make any sense. You just can't pull out the statistic and say, this is why it's wrong. If that's the case, then heterosexual marriages, every relationship, every couple is hurting you using the same logic because it has the potential to spread AIDS or does spread AIDS. So heterosexual marriages are damaging you too because of AIDS, because it can get passed between those types of couples. Do you see what I'm saying? No, it doesn't work this way.
I understand, like I've never understood before, that it is indeed a struggle. But Jesus did not come down here, shed his blood, and give his power so that people could be overcome or given to weaknesses. For those of you fighting it, I will not venture to call you a homosexual. You are a man or a woman created in the image of God who happens to be suffering with homosexual feelings. I don't care what mainstream psychology is saying.
You don't care what mainstream psychology is saying. Well done! You don't care what mainstream psychology says whatsoever. So right there, you're saying, fuck science, fuck social science, fuck anything in regards to science. I don't care what it says because my holy book is more important than science. Wow, well done on showing your credibility as a Christian. You're just throwing that out there. I don't care what mainstream psychology says. Well, you should care, because if you did care, you wouldn't be making the statements and arguments that you're trying to make in this video that make absolutely no sense whatsoever. You should care about what mainstream psychology says. Don't be the typical Christian who only looks towards one direction, that's towards a religious book. Expand your mind. I expanded my mind. I was open, and even when I was a Christian, I accepted evolution as a scientific fact. I believed in evolution. Even when I was a Christian, and all of my fellow peers said that I'm not a true Christian because I believed in evolution. But I was open, and I studied, and I was open to seeing new things and learning new things through science. And through science, and through all these things that I learned, I eventually became an atheist. Well, Christian, deist, atheist. You don't care what mainstream psychology says. That's your fucking problem. that you don't care.
We know who their sponsors are. The same way you teach yourself to suppress feelings of hate, murder, and fornication is no different from this. This is something so important. Heterosexuality should not be the goal of a homosexual. Holiness should be their goal. Your cure is in Jesus.
Did you hear that, my fellow reptiles? The cure to being gay is Jesus. Yeah! Jesus. When you're sleeping, Jesus is going to come down from the sky, and he's going to reach out his hand and magically touch you on the dick, and you're going to be straight. All those feelings and all those struggles, they're going to be gone. Because with Jesus, Jesus is the way.
It's not in a heterosexual relationship. And when you seek Jesus with all your heart, you will naturally fall into God's original plan. Don't be afraid that you'll never be happy.
Don't be afraid that you'll never be happy. I don't like that statement. Do you know why I don't like that statement? Because I've been told that same type of shit from people before. Don't be afraid, Daniel. If you come to Jesus again, you'll have meaning in your life. You know, because you're an atheist, you have no meaning, you have no hope, you have no nothing, you can't feel love. You can't be truly happy with your life. You can't be fulfilled with your life, Daniel, because you're an atheist, because you don't believe in God. Because you don't believe in God, you have no hope, you have nothing. You can never be truly happy because you don't believe in God, because you don't have a relationship with God. Bullshit, motherfuckers.
That is a lie from Satan. Jeremiah 29:11 says, "For I know the plans I have for you, declares the Lord, plans to prosper you and not to harm you, to give you a hope and a future." You say, "It's too late, I've gone too far." In the presence of God, you are not condemned, you are transformed. 2 Corinthians 5:17 says, "If any man be in Christ, he is a new creature. Old things are passed away, behold, all things are become new." But you say, "I can't change." Philippians 4:13 says, "We can do all things through Christ, which strengthens us." Homosexuality is a major inconvenience.
What? What? Being gay is an inconvenience? I don't know what to say. Being gay is an inconvenience? How is being gay an inconvenience? Explain to me, how is being gay an inconvenience to you? How does them having consensual private sex in their own house or place, how does that concern you? How does that affect you? It doesn't. Being gay is an inconvenience? No, what's an inconvenience is me having to spend my time making a video to someone like you who is too stupid to acknowledge that psychology is a science, but much less take in consideration of what mainstream psychology actually says. Being gay is an inconvenience. No, it's not an inconvenience. My sexuality, being straight, is not an inconvenience. Someone else's sexuality of being gay is not an inconvenience. Our sexuality is not an inconvenience. What's an inconvenience is having to respond in the 21st century to people like you who try to justify their hatred or their homophobia towards people who just want to feel loved and respected, just like a heterosexual couple, who want to have the same rights as a heterosexual couple. There's no inconvenience about that. The inconvenience is religion. You.
I understand that, but you are not stuck. You are not a victim. You are loved, and there is an amazing plan for you. In the end, it is your choice. But no, there is hope.
You did this at the end of your video, heart. I actually pictured two dicks going through, like, you know, you hearting two dicks in between your hands. I don't know why. Maybe I'm just perverted like that. But, yeah, ladies and gentlemen, her video is linked down below. This has been a real talk on homosexuality. My name's Daniel Sulzbach, also known as Mr. Repzion. Thank you for watching, and if you're gay, don't forget to be awesome.